Hello, everyone, and one thing I just want to think about is the fact of what happened to Bulk Skull. For people who don't know what happened to Bulk Skull actually in Wild Force, they actually owned a hotel together. Which, if you think about it, the whole entire little calculations, and let's say Spike, which is Skull's son, most likely he's 18 years old. If he's 18 years old, then that means that when it came to Wild Force, he actually should have been there. He actually should have been there, and he actually should have been like 5 years old, maybe even 3. So, no, not 5 years old. He actually would be like 7 years old. Yeah. I mean, if he's 18, he kind of might be 18. I'm not sure what Spike's age would have been, but let's just say if he's actually 18. If he's 18, then, or yeah, he might be a teenager, but he seemed like more like 18 than a teenager, actually. He seems like he's kind of like an adult somewhat. So, yeah, that means that basically he should have, in 2001, he should have actually been like 7 years old. Yeah, 7 or 8 years old. So that means that he should have actually been present when Wild Force had Forever Red. That's where we actually learned about what happened to Bulk and Skull is Forever Red. But anyway, somehow Bulk and Skull actually owned a hotel together. And one thing I didn't know is that they were actually going to make that a spin-off series, which I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right, I'm going to watch it. But of course, it would be interesting if they did try it. If they did try it and then they had like Rangers from many different seasons coming in and we're like, oh. Yeah, that's one thing that would have been very, very cool that they actually would have done. But anyways, so the messed up part, which I can kind of toy with, and make it make sense. It's just the fact of they had the hotel, right? And then in 2011, you have Spoke, who actually lives somewhere that's crappy as hell. I'm like, what the frick happened with the stupid hotel? It's like, yeah, Sabans, remember before you guys just straight up got screwed over, or basically Hyman Saban screwed the whole entire series over and gave it to Disney? Remember the fact that you actually did have them in a hotel, so it would have been a good idea to actually have some way to say, oh, the hotel went under, or they bought themselves out and had buku amount of money. And Skull, who actually is the dum-dum, actually invested his money well, while Bulk, actually is supposed to be the smart of the two, was dumb enough to spend all his cash, and now he is just basically living way low. That kind of makes sense, and that's what I'm going with. It's the fact that it became reversed. Which, yeah, the one thing that's kind of funny is the fact that they were trying to get Bulk and Skull together, but they couldn't do it because the person who plays Skull actually is a professor at, I think it's Chicago University. Well, he's a professor in Chicago. So, yeah, it's kind of hard for them to actually get him actually there. So that's why they had to make the whole, well, he has a son now. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like, so, yeah, that's how to fix that one for anyone who actually is like, so, let me get this straight. They had a hotel, and now Bulk is living in that crappy place? What the heck? Yeah, looks like Skull actually went to a smart person and invested his money very well, because notice at the end of the whole entire season, Skull and Spike actually were both in limos. They both were in a limo. So that means that, as you can see, they most likely had to sell their hotel and they got buku amount of money. It would be even funnier if they actually just made a little reference saying, yeah, we sold it to some guy that actually has a mushroom haircut or something like that. So it actually be a nice little hint that, oh, Donald Trump bought their thing and they actually got lots of money for it. Whatever though, what? whatever. It's like, whatever. I guess one thing that would have been cool is that since they did have RPM, that's one of them, and you also have overdrive, you could have actually just made it the fact of one of them, like the Yellow Ranger's parents, they're rich. They could have did something with that. Or the overdrive, the person who actually created overdrive and was working on it, he is a rich billionaire, which means that he could actually have bought that hotel. So yeah, it's like there's two ways to get out of it that actually would be kind of cool to be like, oh, they're connected. But anyways, now the last thing to talk about is who is Spike's mother. Yeah, and I was watching the weekly podcast. That's one thing I was watching. First time ever. And they said how Kimberly was Spike's mom. And I was like, no. No. No, 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 no. There was a panel, though, that they actually were talking about it. I think it was in 2012 or 11. No, it had to be 2012, 2013. Well, anyways, you had Jason David Frank and you had Jason, the person who played Skull. So you had Tommy and Skull in a panel together. And yeah, they actually overheard what Skull said, the person who plays Skull, he basically said that there's only one other girl besides Kimberly that could have been his mom. And this is the funny part. He said, ambassador thing my eye. So yeah, everyone, let's just go with this awesome idea that Trini is his mom. Yeah, that's right. Trini is freaking Spike's mom. It makes sense. For anyone who's like, Kimberly, it was Kimberly. No, dude, no. The only thing that happened in Forever Red is that Tommy and Kimberly somehow got back together, even though in Zeo, they just concluded that Tommy and Catherine were going to be married and old together. So maybe this is just some kind of fling that's going on. Yeah, so Catherine went somewhere and then Kimberly came back and yeah, so Kimberly and Tommy was together in Forever Red, or at least spent like one day together. But of course, one thing you need to know is that Kimberly broke up with Tommy in Zeo. And she found some French guy to date. And that's what happened. As for the whole what's going on between it, like after she's not actually there anymore, I mean, she did show up in Turbo, but we didn't get like anything of, yeah, we didn't get any cat fighting or anything. The fact that Kimberly's there and Catherine's there, Catherine loves Tommy, and then Kimberly finds some affection back, and then, yeah, none of that happened. Yeah, of course, it's a kid's freaking movie, so it's like, yeah, there's no way, shape, or form you actually will see that in a freaking movie. But I would have liked to see that. I would have liked to see that. Yeah, the Pink Ranger going against Kimberly. The Pink Turbo Ranger fighting Kimberly. Just because. But yeah, you're right, like that'll happen. So, I'll take it from what Skull said. And Skull actually gets to choose. I mean, yeah, the person who acted or played as Skull, I think technically he gets to choose who he says his wife is, quote unquote wife is. And I think, why not Trini? Because if you should know that Tween is dead. So that means that if they can't actually bring Tween back because, well, she's dead, so that means that she's in the shadows. So the wife is in the shadows, meaning perfect fit. Perfect fit. So yes, Tween / Trini birthed freaking Spike. Sadly, you can make a tragic story of how she died at childbirth, so at least you'll have that part. Of course, since, it's supposed to be a kid-friendly show, they can't really say anything like that. Given that Rugrats kind of did do something like that, though. So it's like, but if they ever want to fix it, yeah, I really hope that they actually pick Trini and not Kimberly. Because if they pick Kimberly, it's just like what Jason David Frank said. Jerry. But anyways, thank you for watching. And I hope this was very, very not inspiring, but very helpful, informative. So remember, it's Trini. Trini is freaking Spice's mom. It makes sense because you don't get to see his mom anymore. You don't get to see his mom at all. So, yeah, it makes sense that she died at childbirth. And, yeah, so it's kind of like a tragic story. Of course, you got the whole idea of, oh, well, it was a mistake. As soon as she got rid of her baby, she just ran for it and picked some new guy out. Nah, I'd rather just have that shocking death because that fits perfectly. Anyways, thank you for watching, and